Today, I'd like to share how to keep the water in a planted tank clean and clear. I have often mentioned that this type of planted aquarium relies on the substrate to break down waste. Specifically, the aquatic plants themselves break down the waste. Generally speaking, there shouldn't be any issues with the water quality in the fish tank. Many beginners encounter problems typically caused by algae overgrowth, which makes the tank look dirty and hinders the growth of aquatic plants. For this example, I've chosen a fish tank. Do the cleanliness issues seen here mirror the problems you are experiencing? Once aquatic plants become covered in algae, they stop growing, and the fish tank becomes increasingly dirty. The advantage of a planted tank is that even if algae runs rampant, the fish will not die. It merely affects the visual appeal. Cleaning the walls of the fish tank is simple. All you need is a scraper. However, clearing away the aquatic plants is an issue. You can't exactly pull them all out to clean them. At this point, you can introduce some Malaya shrimp black shell shrimp into the tank. Or, if you prefer something more decorative, you can use ornamental shrimp. Generally speaking, shrimp can be introduced during the early stages of setting up the tank, though the number introduced varies depending on the size of the tank. However, the current situation requires increasing the number of shrimp stocked. I prepared around 1,000 or so of them and put them all into the fish tank. I will use this fish tank to demonstrate the effectiveness of shrimp in removing algae. Adding so many living creatures to the fish tank all at once like this is highly likely to lead to oxygen depletion. It is essential to use an oxygen pump. This ensures the shrimp will not die from a lack of oxygen. Standard oxygen pumps like this one may not provide sufficient aeration. Replacing the air stone can help increase oxygen output. The video shows the result on the first day I put the shrimp into the tank. After placing the shrimp in the fish tank for about 2 hours, you can see a noticeable reduction in the algae. By the next morning, you could see that the algae in the fish tank had been largely cleaned away. You can't spot it anymore unless you look closely. By the afternoon of the next day, it was evident that the aquatic plants were completely clean. You can also spot some shrimp that have died and changed color, indicating they have been dead for some time. The aquatic plants are clean, but there is still a lot of algae on the tank walls. Generally speaking, you can introduce suckermouth catfish into the fish tank to clean up this algae. However, the water temperature in the fish tank is too low, only 12 degrees Celsius. So, first use a scraper to clean it up. The fish tank filter is also clogged with algae. We need to replace the filter pad. It resumes operation after a quick cleaning, effectively clearing away the oil film and dust floating on the water's surface. Next, we need to use the water changer. Adjust its flow rate before use. It is primarily used to siphon up dead shrimp from the fish tank. Regularly changing the water in the fish tank can also help dilute the nutrients in the water, reduce algae growth. And so, another night passed. The fish tank now looks vastly different from when it first started. By now, there is absolutely no trace left of the earlier algae overgrowth in the fish tank. Even the algae on the stones have been cleaned off thoroughly. I know someone is bound to ask, what happens to the shrimp left in the tank after it has been cleaned? This method of clearing algae is an emergency measure. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't need that many shrimp. I previously set up a forest-themed planted aquarium. The water was crystal clear at the very beginning. About a week after setting up the tank, I introduced 200 shrimp and 5 farlowella catfish. You might be wondering, these small shrimp don't look particularly attractive in the tank, and their practical purpose isn't immediately apparent. But in reality, I haven't had to clean any algae out of this tank so far. Whenever algae starts to grow, the shrimp eat it up. This keeps the tank naturally clean. When choosing fish food, it is best to opt for floating varieties. I generally choose brine shrimp cubes as fish food. With this type of floating food, the fish feed at the water's surface, so there is no issue with food sinking and settling at the bottom. When used in conjunction with a filter, any leftover fish food is directly removed by the filter. This way, the shrimp in the tank will clean things up, and fish food won't settle at the bottom. Combine with regular water changes. Once the aquatic plants in the tank have grown sufficiently, their cleaning capacity becomes very strong. At this stage, the tank reaches a point where it stays clean, even without maintenance.